it's Lisa here. So today I want to talk about stress and specifically how stress affects your health and also your weight. Because I think too many people often overlook the negative effects of stress, and too often we blame the food or think we are simply eating too much or eating the wrong things, or we think that losing weight will help us be healthy. Like food and weight could be the only things affecting our bodies. And most often we actually overlook the number one thing where many health problems start, and this is stress. It has been estimated that 75 to 90% of all visits to primary care physicians are for stress related problems. So a lot of health issues can actually start from stress. But firstly, I want to talk about that actually not all stress is bad for you, because our body's stress response is a natural response in some situation where it can actually protect us and keep us safe. For example, if we are faced with an emergency situation, our body's fight or flight response kicks in. Our body produces stress hormones called cortisol and adrenaline so we can immediately deal with the situation. And as the threatening situation passes, we feel normal again. And stress doesn't just help us in the emergency situations, but it can also help us perform better. For example, if we need to perform well on a job interview or we participate in competitive sports, then some stress can actually enhance our performance. But definitely stress can also become very bad for us if it becomes chronic and if our body keeps on producing those stress hormones. Things like chronic stress from work, ongoing problems in your family, dealing with loss of a loved one, money problems, experiencing discrimination, bullying or abusive relationships, or even being chronically sleep deprived. Research shows that almost every system in the body can be influenced by chronic stress. When chronic stress goes unreleased, it suppresses the body's immune system and ultimately this will manifest as illness. So talking about how stress affects your health, because again, many people are not aware how actually stress has a significant impact on your health. And stress is not just feeling worried or feeling anxious, but actually it can have many more negative side effects. For example, stress is linked to physical problems. For example, weakened immune system, digestion issues, things like acid reflux, constipation or diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, stomach aches, even IBS symptoms or stomach ulcers. Also headaches, muscle aches and pains, joint pains, missed periods, also hormonal imbalances, increased PMS symptoms, and fertility problems, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, sleeping problems, chronic fatigue, skin issues, hair loss, premature aging, and also weight gain and weight loss. If stress persists after the initial fight or flight reaction, the body's reaction enters a second stage. During this stage, the activity of the sympathetic nervous system declines and adrenaline secretion is lessened, but cortisol secretion continues at above normal levels. Finally, if stress continues and the body is unable to cope, there is likely to be a breakdown of body resources. So chronic stress definitely leads to many physical health problems, but also it can lead to mental health problems. For example, things like depression, anxiety, panic attacks, irritability or mood swings, anger or aggression, PTSD, and also in general, stress is a big risk factor of developing many mental illnesses. Studies show that long-term stress can change the structure of the brain, especially in areas supporting learning and memory. It can affect both nerve cells and the connection between them. It is possible that these changes, along with other factors, can increase the likelihood of developing mental illness. So stress will affect your physical health, your mental health, but stress can also affect your behaviors. For example, stress can lead to unhealthy coping with, for example, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, or it can lead to disordered eating, for example, overeating or not eating enough. And I also want to mention dieting, since for many people it can be almost like a coping mechanism to gain control in times of stress. Also things like social withdrawal, decline in job performance. It can lead to relationship issues, decline self-care habits, and also other harmful coping behaviors, things like self-harm, smoking, compulsive money spending, and many other behaviors. And the thing is that the more you are exposed to chronic stress, the more serious health problems you can start to experience. Your body will eventually burn out under stress. And this can result in even serious damage and illnesses such as heart attacks, stroke, diabetes, emotional and psychological breakdown, autoimmune disorders, and even cancer. According to the American Psychological Association, chronic stress is linked to the 6 leading causes of death: heart disease, cancer, lung ailments, accidents, cirrhosis of the liver, and even suicide. And one of the main links between how stress increases illnesses is because stress causes inflammation in your body. Researchers have found that chronic psychological stress is associated with the body losing its ability to regulate the inflammatory response. The research shows for the first time that the effects of psychological stress on the body's ability to regulate inflammation can promote the development and progression of disease. So let's talk about stress from dieting and from the pursuit of health and weight loss. Because actually a lot of the stress also comes from dieting and restriction. For example, we think that eating healthy or losing weight promotes health, but actually it can lead to more problems. And chronic dieting or yo-yo dieting is definitely a big stressor for the body. And having to count calories and constantly monitor your food is increasing your body's cortisol levels. The University of California in San Francisco wanted to determine what effect calorie restriction has on women's stress levels. So they divided women into 4 groups. Group number 1, they restricted their caloric intake to 1,200 calories per day and recorded their calorie consumption. Group number 2, they kept to 1,200 calories per day but didn't keep a calorie record. Group number 3, they wrote down the number of calories they consumed while continuing on their regular diets. And group number 4, they didn't track or restrict their calories. And the result of this study, they concluded that this study found that monitoring one's diet increased perceived psychological stress, and restricting one's caloric intake increased total daily cortisol. These findings support the idea that stress may be a mechanism of diet failure. And also, just in general, the diet culture that reinforces the idea that there is something wrong with our bodies and with our eating, it also adds stress. Poor body image, internalized weight bias, and body shame are major sources of stress. Research suggests that internalized weight bias increases stress as well as contributes to other poor medical and mental health outcomes. So we definitely need to start paying more attention to our stress levels causing health problems rather than automatically blaming our eating or our weight. Because as you can see, so many health issues can actually start from stress. And in fact, starting to eat healthy or lose weight for your health can actually make you more unhealthy because it just adds more stress to your body. And it's really a paradox that trying to get healthy can often make us very unhealthy because the usual way we go about it actually causes more stress to our body and therefore making us just feel worse in the long run. And losing weight with dieting is extremely stressful for the body. Your body doesn't want to willingly lose the weight, but your body is forced into it. Dieting goes against your body's free will, and this causes the starvation response for your body. Dieting and restriction causes your metabolism to slow down and your hunger to increase because your body thinks you're starving. And if your body thinks you are starving, then your body senses you are in extreme stress and danger. And many people diet many times in their life. They yo-yo diet maybe for years or even decades. And with each attempt, it just stresses out the body more and more and causes starvation symptoms, health problems, and more future weight gain. And I also recommend you to watch my video about starvation mode where I explain what it is and what effect it has on your body. And also please watch my recent video about why diets don't work because it further explains why dieting will only make you gain weight and make your health worse. And I will include the video links in the description. And dieting doesn't just cause physical stress for your body, but also it causes mental and emotional stress. Dieting is related to lower self-esteem and body image issues. Restriction and dieting is even related to symptoms of body dysmorphia. Dieting diminishes your self-worth down to your body weight and size and makes you believe your value is in how thin you are. Dieting by itself can lead to symptoms of anxiety, mood disorders, and even depression. And dieting definitely is a form of self-abuse, since you have to go against your own body. You use methods like fasting, restricting calories, fighting with cravings, purging, plus having to constantly use negative motivation to lose the weight, such as weighing yourself, body checking, measuring your body fat, comparing your body to others. And these are all torturous and self-abusive methods that often accompany dieting and weight loss. And there is nothing anti-stress or relaxing about it. And also, just the pursuit of health can make your health worse. And wanting to be healthy can definitely have a good intention, but actually in the long run it can make you rather more unhealthy. Because, for example, I developed orthorexia because I was trying to eat healthy for my health. I didn't want to have an eating disorder, but this quote-unquote health journey ended with me having a full-blown eating disorder. I started to eliminate and avoid certain foods. I started to have a good and bad foods mindset. I felt guilt and shame when I ate the quote-unquote unhealthy foods. I thought of myself as a failure when I overate, and I continued to blame the food but not the restriction. And I developed food obsession, intense cravings and urges to binge, which eventually led me to develop bulimia. And no matter how much I forced myself to eat the healthy salads and smoothies and fruits and veggies, and I wanted to be healthy, but the more I tried to be healthy, the more stress it causes to my body and the more unhealthy I became. So wanting to eat healthy both destroyed my physical health and my mental health. So the physical act of restricting definitely is one form of stress, but many people don't know that the stress can just come from having the restrictive mindset, because there is something called cognitive dietary restraint, which means that stress hormones are released by your body just by your thoughts about restriction. Your body and mind are extremely connected. So even if you are not actively dieting, but you are constantly thinking about restriction, you're already causing stress for your body. And this is why it's so important in recovery, not just to physically eat, but also mentally give yourself an unconditional permission to eat without guilt and shame and judgment, and to stop the diet mentality. Because you will never ever be healthy if you don't eliminate the act of eating as a source of stress. So this is why simply eating healthy doesn't make you healthy, because if this healthy eating is causing you more stress, more food obsession, more cravings, more binge urges, if it's causing you to have disordered eating or eating disorders, then this is not making you healthy. And actually the clean eating or healthy eating can make your health worse, because mental health is a huge part of our overall health. Your mindset plays a huge role in your health. And besides just the plain calorie restriction or dieting, then there are other behaviors we engaging in the pursuit of health. Things like over-exercising or over-hydrating, and also things like intermittent fasting, and definitely things like doing cleanses and detoxes. So basically forcing ourselves to do anything that is not natural or sustainable long-term is very stressful. So basically the more obsessed you are with your health and with your weight, the more unhealthy you're gonna become. And now I also want to talk about stress and weight gain. And before I talk about weight gain, I want to say that stress can also cause weight loss, because some people can actually lose their normal appetite when they are stressed. Stress can make us more prone to skipping meals, working longer hours, or have increased activity and not enough food to fuel those activities. And as we talked about, stress can lead to unhealthy coping behaviors such as drug abuse, also dieting or eating disorders that can make us lose weight in a very unhealthy ways. So some people gain weight, but some people also lose weight under stress. And before I talk about weight or talk about weight gain, I want to say that I'm not making this video because I think you should focus on the weight or worry about your weight or worry about your weight gain. And very soon in this video you're gonna actually discover that I'm saying exactly the opposite to it. But I just want to talk about how stress can also affect your weight, because very often we focus too much on eating too much or how food is making us gain weight, or we think that like weight loss is the only solution to be healthy. But actually you will discover that it actually isn't, because all of this is just causing more stress to your body. And also addressing the stress levels and trying to reduce or eliminate stress doesn't have any long-term negative consequences, and actually long-term it will make you more healthy. So let's talk about how stress affects your weight. First, stress affects your metabolism. Longitudinal studies suggest that chronic stress and stressful life events enhance the development of the metabolic syndrome. Depression and stressful events can alter neurochemistry, neurobiology, and behavior, providing multiple pathways for metabolic alterations. And stress can actually lead to hypothyroid symptoms. And when I was in my eating disorder and also in my recovery, I remember myself Googling the symptoms I was experiencing. And what I found out was that I had like almost all the symptoms of being hypothyroid. I had symptoms like weight gain, feeling cold, constipation, fatigue, insomnia, feeling puffy, aches and pains, experiencing hair loss, and so on. And what I didn't realize was actually that the dieting I had been through and the restriction and the eating disorder was the cause of these symptoms. And I actually needed to fully recover. I needed to start eating enough, stop all the restriction, focus having more rest, more sleep, and just eliminating any stress. And eventually all those symptoms passed. Weak adrenals can cause hypothyroid symptoms without any problem in the thyroid gland itself. In such cases, treating the thyroid is both unnecessary and ineffective, and addressing the adrenals themselves is the key to improving thyroid function. Because these days everybody is diagnosing themselves with adrenal fatigue and hypothyroidism. But what they fail to realize is that these symptoms can be symptoms of starvation that are stressing your body and your adrenals and affect your thyroid hormones. Because as we talked about, dieting and restriction takes a huge toll on your metabolism and also on your hormones. When you restrict food or calories, your stress hormones will go up automatically, and it means dialing down your thyroid, which dictates your metabolic rate. So if your stress hormones go up, your thyroid hormones will go down, and they act as opposites. And many people who diet panic when they see themselves gaining the weight back because of this body stress response, and they start to diet and restrict even more. But this, however, just adds to the stress levels and will only make things worse. And because of this stress response on your body that dieting and restriction creates, it's next to impossible to lose weight with dieting. And next, I want to talk about how stress affects your blood sugar levels. Because many people maybe think that your blood sugar is only affected with how much carbs or sugar we are eating, or anything to do with only our eating. But actually, blood sugar issues can be caused by many other factors. Things like lack of sleep, or illnesses, or even from a monthly menstrual cycle for females. And blood sugar can also be affected by stress. When your body is under stress, the adrenal glands trigger the release of glucose stored in various organs, which often leads to elevated levels of glucose in the bloodstream. And raising blood sugar is important in stressful situations, because the body senses that in a stressful situation we need a lot of fuel to deal with the situation, whether we need it to deal with any physical or mental activity. And this increased blood sugar levels in stressful situations is actually a natural response. And normally our body can deal with the stress and the raising blood sugar levels, because our body has its own mechanism to keep the balance. For example, our body releases a hormone called insulin that helps to keep the blood sugar balance. But of course, when we are experiencing chronic stress, then the elevated blood sugar can become problematic, because in chronic stress it can be that insulin actually can't properly do its job and balance your blood sugar levels. And since insulin is one of the main hormones to balance your blood sugar levels, then over time it can lead to insulin resistance, which means that your blood sugar levels are higher than they should be. One study on Chinese people found that chronic stress was associated with insulin resistance and may contribute to the development of insulin resistance, chronic stress may emerge as a new target for preventing of insulin resistance. And the quote from the same study about stress and insulin resistance was that repeated or chronic stress plays a potential role in the development of overweight and obesity. So again, very often we blame the food for our weight issues, but actually we don't pay enough attention to stress. And also very often we blame like eating too much sugar or carbs for our elevated blood sugar levels. But as we talked about, stress can also elevate your blood sugar levels. And actually eliminating carbs is already a source of stress for the body. Carb restriction is known for causing stress response in our bodies. Eating enough carbs is essential for us, and glucose from the carbs is a primary source of fuel for us, and our brain runs exclusively on glucose. If we don't get enough of it, it's already a source of stress. So before we start to blame the food or carbs or sugar for our elevated blood sugar levels, we first have to eliminate and deal with stress. Because if you're recovering from dieting and restriction and eating disorder, then just starting to eliminate foods or carbs, like obviously this can make the problem even worse. And also stress affects your hunger hormones. So firstly, when we are in short-term stress, then this can actually cause us to lose our appetite temporarily. For example, when you are about to give an important speech or when you need to deal with a dangerous situation, then the immediate stress response can suppress our appetite short-term. But chronic stress can actually increase our appetite. Our body needs fuel in stressful events, so it senses that you need plenty of energy to deal with the stressful situation. But if the stressful situation persists long time, our body is not getting a signal to lower our hunger hormones. And also some studies show that in prolonged stress we actually start to crave more high fat and high sugar foods. Or for example, if people experience stress, they can initially lose their appetite, and this can result in eating less or skipping meals for a while. But then the appetite will eventually catch up, and this may result in period of overeating when the body is actually just catching up with the lost energy. And because of our society's fear of weight gain and believing that eating less is better or eating more means that something is wrong, many people may misinterpret this as binging. But what actually happened was that you didn't eat enough for a while because of stress, and now the body is just catching up with the lost energy. And even when stress can temporarily increase our appetite, then actually if we just deal with the stress, our appetite can go back to normal over time. But this is where many people panic about their appetite and maybe they temporarily like weight gain. And what they do is that they start to diet and restrict, then actually can make it worse and further just mess up your hunger cues. And plus, if you are already a dieter and having to deal with a stressful situation, then in stressful situations, people who restrict are much more likely to overeat. Researcher Janet Tomiyama has found that dieters tend to be more emotional and react more strongly than non-dieters to upsetting events, and maybe because dieting itself creates so much stress. So when you're a dieter and therefore already in stress, then this makes you more sensitive to any added stress. And stress also changes our behavior and habits. For example, in stressful times, we may be more prone to skipping meals, which may lead to overeating urges and increased cravings afterwards. Also, while we are stressed, we don't have enough time to prepare normal home-cooked meals, and we may opt more for convenient foods. We also may not have enough time for enjoyable activities or moderate exercise or body movement, and we have less time for positive self-care habits. Or in stress, we may be more prone to use harmful coping behaviors to deal with the stress. And stress can also lead to disrupted sleeping cycle that messes up your circadian rhythm, which is another thing that is strongly related to your hormones, metabolism, and even your hunger cues. So as you can see, there are so many ways stress is affecting your health and also your weight. So even when you overeat, this can just be a symptom. Not a symptom that you are simply greedy or there is simply something wrong with your hunger or you don't have enough willpower, but it can actually be a symptom that you are in stress and actually the stress is just messing with your hunger hormones. So here the best thing is to not start restricting, but actually start reducing your stress levels. Or as we talked about, that stress can affect your thyroid and your metabolism, that may result in weight gain. And here the solution as well is not to start restricting to lose the weight, but rather to learn to manage the stress, because trying to lose weight when you're already in stress is just gonna make everything worse. So much more important than the food you eat is actually the hormonal and metabolic environment the food enters. When looking at the bigger picture, a calorie is not a calorie. Instead, what really matters is the metabolic and hormonal environment of the body within which calories enter. So there is a huge difference if the calories enter into a stressed out body's environment where your hormones and metabolism are already messed up with restriction and chronic stress, or if the calories enter into a low stress, normal body environment with normal metabolism and hormonal functioning, because then your body's response to food and calories will be entirely different. So you can't blame the food or calories for the weight gain if you are in a state of chronic stress, because this environment of your body is down regulating your whole system. And based on what we have said all throughout this video, I hope now you can see how trying to intentionally lose weight simply doesn't work, because it creates the stress response in your body, and your body will literally start to fight against the weight loss. So there is a huge difference between intentional weight loss that happens through you controlling it with some form of dieting and restriction that only causes more stress for your body, or with unintentional weight loss where you actually stop focusing on your weight, you heal your relationship with food, you start to live your life, you focus on doing the things you love, you manage your stress levels, and then if your body chooses to, it can lose weight because your hormonal and metabolic environment is finally normalized and healthy. So what I mean is that if you're gonna lose weight, it can't be intentional, and it can only be unintentional without you focusing on your weight and actually learning to manage your stress levels. And then maybe if your body decides it's gonna lose weight on its own, without you focusing on it. Your weight is determined by the factors beyond your control. And when you are trying to fight with your body's biology, then this is simply a fight you will never ever win. And if you're ever gonna lose weight, it can only be unintentional and by you reducing stress on all levels. So your body can be in an environment that actually supports health rather than making it worse. So this is the reality of it. This is the reality of weight loss. And whether you accept it or not, it's up to you. But fighting the reality doesn't change the reality. So we talked about how significant effect stress has on your body. And from now on, every change you make, you have to make sure that it doesn't add stress and it actually helps with reducing stress. And what you can do is ask yourself, does this lifestyle change adds to my long-term stress levels, or it reduces my long-term stress levels? And this is the question you can ask yourself whenever you decide if something is truly good for you long-term or not. For example, if you think about dieting, then maybe short-term it may seem that it will reduce stress. You can lose some weight or feel quote-unquote healthier. At least this is the illusion we are sold by the diet culture. But long-term, dieting doesn't work, and all this food and weight control will actually add more stress into your life and it will never end. Or for example, you may think about recovery. Yes, short term it can increase some stress because recovery is scary and you must step out of your comfort zone in order to get better. But recovery is also temporary, and in long term it will take you to full recovery where your body can recover, your mental health can get better, you will be a normal eater, no more restriction or binge purge cycles or other unhealthy eating disorder behaviors. So long term recovery is actually a big stress relief. Start to ask yourself, what will reduce my long-term stress levels. And then these are the good practices to choose from. For example, things like meditation obviously won't cause more stress, but helps to eliminate stress. Or things like self-care practices, having enough sleep, making sure you eat regularly, doing the things you love, spending time with loved ones, reading, journaling, taking regular breaks from work, seeing a therapist, deep breathing exercises, learning to accept your body the way it is, making peace with yourself, growing your spiritual practices, feeling your feelings and learning to cope with your emotions in healthy ways. These are all things that reduce stress levels long term, and they are good for your health. And they have nothing to do with clean eating or losing weight, but can actually increase your awareness and connection with yourself and your body. And they are definitely health promoting behaviors. So as you can see, there is way more to our health than just clean eating or losing weight, and rather focusing on those things can make you more unhealthy because of the added stress. So this is the video today. I know it was a little bit lengthy, but I really wanted to talk about it because I think it's such an interesting and very important subject. And if you want to know more about recovery or how to go about it step by step, then please read my book, Brainwashed, Diet-Induced Eating Disorders, how you got sucked in and how to recover, and I will include it in the description. And also another book I can recommend, and this book name is Wrecked, Why Your Quest for Health and Weight Loss Has Failed and What You Can Do About It. And this book actually was the inspiration for today's video because the author talks about stress and how dieting and restriction is a source of stress, and actually how it will never result in health. And the same thing that I said, that intentional weight loss never works because it just makes you more stressed. Therefore, your body will forever start to fight against any weight loss. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I really hope it was helpful. And as always, please like this video and also subscribe to my channel. And I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye.